I'm really interested at the start of this conversation to talk a little bit about your background, where you are based, where you were based when you first got into photojournalism. How did you get into it, and what was the story of that?
Yeah, well, I was born in Kabul in 1981, and then due to communist regime problems and cruelty to the society and my family, we were fled to Iran when I was a baby, and I grew up in Iran. I finished high school and college there, and then after that, I finished my high school in Iran. Well, I grew up with Iranian. I studied in Iranian high school because I had a UN Blue ID card, so I could use it. But I was away from my own society. And when I finished the high school, I wanted to just go back and see who am I, who are Afghan people and all this. So I decided to join a charity organization who are helping the refugees. And then one time I went to a area which the really poor refugees were living close to my own home, and it was 30 minutes by car. And then when I went there, I saw a really bad situation. It was like a place that people who were living there didn't have anything. Like they didn't have road, they didn't have water, they didn't have home, they didn't have anything, right? And they were living in a really, really bad situation. Some of them were making house via garbage, right? So it made me really kind of sad, and a bit shocked as well. And I really wanted to talk about it to the Iranian society. I thought that Iranian society do not know about the existence of these people. And I wrote to some papers, they didn't really care. But when I sent some pictures, it was really effective. So people from some reformist papers communicate with me and said that, oh, where is this place? We were going to send the professional photographers for that and all this. And then they sent two photographers, one of the papers, and I was a fixer for them. Then I realized that, pictures really, really important, because you don't lie with the picture, and you can completely reflect the 100% truth with the picture. And that's why that I start I worked 9 months in a tailor shop to buy my first camera. And then I start taking pictures. And in 2002, I came to Kabul after the 9/11 happened and all that story. And
so just to check on that point there, Massoud, that's the Taliban are out of power in Afghanistan then, is that correct?
Yes. In 2002, in March, when I entered to my country, Taliban were gone for 4 months, right? So then when I entered to Afghanistan, I was thinking that how and what should I do for my homeland, because I was so excited to go back to my homeland, and I felt that whatever it is in that country is mine. And I have I have home, right? But my country, my homeland was destroyed. It was totally destroyed. And then I said, okay, so because the international community came and a lot of promises, so why not, if I document by my own profession, I document the reconstruction and be a source for the photography and photos for Afghanistan. So I start my job as a photographer, and also I mean, joined INA, organization run by Reza and Manucher Deqati, two famous photographers in the world. And then I slowly started to take pictures of the building, which is destroyed, and then they became changed and they rebuilt it, or some new buildings, new roads, and all this. And unfortunately, the war got serious after 2003 and 4. And then I kind of had to change to covering war, because I wanted to be source, right?
Yes.
I wanted to be the main person who has everything in the photos. And I didn't want that other media or anywhere, find the pictures through other foreign photographers, or in the future, if they needed a picture, then why they should go to, I don't know, a London library or somewhere else to find the photos about Afghanistan, the way that myself had that problem. When I was in Iran, whenever I was looking for a photo, the photo was taken by a British soldier, or I don't know, it was inside the British library. It wasn't for Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, sure. Just on that point, Massoud. So, sorry, just to cut in there, because I think this is a really important point, actually, because what you're talking about, what it sounds like to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what it sounds like to me is what you're saying is you as an Afghani, you want to be the one to tell the story. You don't want you don't want a foreigner to come in and say, right, we're going to be the ones to take the pictures. We're going to be the ones to write the articles.
Right.
This is how the narrative is. You instead want to take charge of that, because you are from Afghanistan and that is your homeland. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, I wanted to tell the story myself.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I wanted to own the picture. So it means that Afghanistan would own the picture and the credit. So that was really important for me. And that's why that I start, covering war when I joined AFP in 2006. And then, I insist, try and ask AFP to send me embedding with the troops to find out that how the war against terrorism is going on, right? So I was doing the embeds with American soldiers, British soldiers, French soldiers, and many other NATO troops, and recording and taking pictures. It for me was historical pictures that U.S. Marine soldiers walk in a village and then children come around him. Well, then what happening? And then war was going on. Then U.S. soldiers died in front of me because of a bomb, and all this. At the same time, the daily life and the cultural development, I was witness of a lot of concerts for the first time after a long time in Afghanistan. And it was completely free atmosphere. There was a lot of freedom for the girls, which I never had experienced that in Iran before. So I kind of became the recording the history for Afghanistan in the pictures. And then, because of this motivation, I could find my way into a lot of international media, and I through AFP and also sometimes as a freelancer, I was giving them my own pictures and my own view that I was looking and witnessing for my own country.
Yeah. So you were taking all sorts of pictures. So like you say, you went in there with the intention of photographing, documenting through photographs, reconstruction, if you like, reconstruction of the country, and then that shifted, didn't it? So instead, you were thinking more in terms of more in terms of war. You know, the situation's not exactly as you expected it to be. But
Yes.
you were taking all sorts of pictures, right? So you were taking pictures of the combat and the war and suicide bombs going off, but you're also taking pictures of these momentous occasions, like you say, like a concert's happening. Or I think I saw in one of the videos that I watched of yours where there's a girl on a merry-go-round or a swing at a fair, and you captured the joy in her face. So you're capturing all sorts of stuff, aren't you?
Yes. Well, I was taking and capturing those pictures, part of the life going on in the war, and then just showing that how much my society was trying to be part of like a normal international community, let's say a normal member of the international community. So the young generation, my generation that time, were training and learning a lot of things and experiencing a lot of normal things that the other countries were doing. Like the girls wanted to learn and play, like, let's say, soccer, while doing a lot of sports like taekwondo, even dance, and then concerts, and well, a lot of activities that it's completely normal for a Western society. So people, my generation, was that brave to experience all that in Afghanistan, and I was the person to record it. And well, it's true that I was doing that for AFP that time, and then in for AP, but now I have this everything. I have the photos, and unfortunately, now that we lost Afghanistan, and I don't know what will when can we take back Afghanistan, or Afghanistan will be separated, federated to several countries or whatever. But I have that all pictures with me, and I can talk about my 20 years time that I experienced in Afghanistan.
So let's talk about that photo that you took in December 2011, if I'm not mistaken, the holy day of Ashura.
Yeah, well, that ceremony is a really important ceremony, the main religious ceremony for Shia minority in Afghanistan. So, and because I am from those people, I covered that story all till 2011 with no problem. And then, because it was a religious ceremony. And then on that day, 6th of December 2011, and I went as normal to cover that story and that ceremony, which I met the girl with the really bright green dress, which normally is saying about a story from like 1,400 years ago, which happened in around that Ashura story, and there were some boys that being beheaded by the bad people, and then Shia people performed that using the Arabic clothes, trying to dress the boys to remind that story. But that time, a girl did that. And it was interesting for me because I knew this history, the story. And then I really wanted to capture that. She was too shy. She was attached to her mother. And when the new group came from south of Kabul, another city, so that group were singing the religious song in Pashto. So I decided to go ahead and record the video and have the sound and everything, and then come back and take the picture of this girl. When I went there and I play and record the video, then after several seconds, the explosion happened behind me, and I was thrown on the street. While I stood up, it was too difficult for me. I was wounded in my hand, and then I couldn't balance myself at all. But I thought that, okay, something happened, and I'm there, and it's my responsibility to show it. I didn't know that explosion because I never thought. So I saw that people are running away from a place that there are a lot of smoke. So I ran exactly in the opposite of others, and I got to the big smoke. And then when the smoke just got down and disappeared, I found myself in the center of the big circle, all dead and destroyed bodies. So that's why that I got a bit shocked and start crying, and at the same time try to take pictures. And also my body starts shaking because I was on the that attack, and then the wave of the explosion normally shook your bones from inside, which is a really bad pain. And I couldn't really control myself, and I stood in one place and just tried to picture from surrounding myself. Well, after that, I watched the pictures and the video that I made. Then I realized that I was standing at the same place that the suicide attacker exploded himself there. So I was exactly in the same spot. And then when I went to the right side, so and I still was taking picture, then I saw that a color, a famous color, is going around and moving, but I didn't remember what was it. So I knew that it is something that I saw it before, but I really didn't remember what was it because of the shock. So I passed the bodies. I walked, unfortunately, beside the bodies and tried to be in front of that color. And I got there and I start taking pictures. Then I saw in the vision of my camera that the girl in the green was shouting and asking help and showing somebody in front of her legs.
And just to pause here, sorry, Massoud, just to pause here a moment. This is the same girl in the green dress that you'd been working with previously that you said was quite shy. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was that girl, but it was a big cut off, it was a big pause because of the explosion.
Sure.
So I couldn't remember, right? Then when I start taking picture in front of her, for sure that something came to my mind, but it wasn't time to go on, right? Because I was only taking pictures. And then she was showing somebody. And then another man came and left a boy, right, in front of her leg. And then the boy head was completely destroyed. And then the guy put it back and just tell it to me that he's dead. And put that boy back. And later I found out that he was her brother, right? And she lost her brother and many other cousins and the other relatives. They were all in the same place. And she was totally shocked and she was screaming. And then I took that picture and that shot. And then I left that scene. It was too heavy for me. So I left that scene. Then there was a lot going on everywhere. People putting bodies top of each other in a car. I took picture of that and some other things. Then I felt that my left hand, which was injured, exactly this part, it's painful, and the blood is around my camera, right? So I had to leave, and I went to other side of the river because this happened close to Kabul River. I passed a bridge. The car was there from AFP. I got into the car and I went to the office. I sent all the pictures, but I couldn't write the captions. I called them and I told the captions. And then, I gave the interview as well. I sent the videos as well. I did everything which a photojournalist should do. I got the video, I sent the information, and then I got the pictures. So then I kind of asked my brother, came to kind of work on my hand, pantomime. I don't know what we call it in English. So, and then, later I left home, but because there was a lot going on in my head, in my head, and I couldn't even leave that place. You know, it was all around my brain. You know.
Sure.
And it was a mistake actually to drive on that situation. And then I had a accident. Well, I left the car and I went home. And then next day I went to the hospital for my hand. And in the afternoon, I tried to find the family of the girl to see what happened and what was the story. And when we found the family, and I was going there, I really was scared that maybe her father would be so angry at me because I showed the family like that, and another woman with no scarf also in there. But I just tried. I said that anyway, I have to go. Probably I find a way to continue the story. And when I knocked the door, and then the father came, and I just introduced myself and said that I'm the photographer on that photo. Then he hugged me and said that, "Thank you, Massoud, that you shared our pain with all the world." So
wow,
yeah,
that's incredible, and it's really incredible. It really strikes me, Massoud, that you did something entirely unnatural in that situation when you've just been in some sort of blast radius of an explosion. You don't really know what's going on. You're in a complete state of shock. You see plumes of smoke, everybody running away from the smoke. You run back towards the smoke. What possesses you to do that?
Well, first of all, I felt responsible to do it. And as I told you, I wanted to record everything about Afghanistan. So that was a big motivation for me to run in many wars in front of a lot of bullets, in a lot of explosions, right? And well, I was so lucky that I never get really bad or really serious injury of it, or lose a member of my body, or I die. You know, I was lucky, but that was the motivation that I had. So I felt responsible to cover that. I felt responsible to photograph whatever people, my people, the people of my homeland, was going through, right? So that's why that in many stories, I was first that I arrived. I was fast and first arrived there because I always looking for that kind of thing to record. And the same motivation was the cause that I ran to the smoke and record that picture.
Yeah, and that photo, it actually won the Pulitzer Prize, didn't it, in 2012 for breaking news photography. So how did that work out? How did Pulitzer get hold of it, or the Pulitzer Committee get hold of it, and what was that process like for you?
Well, as I was really, busy with all the story, AFP already, submit that picture for World Press Photo and Pulitzer and many other awards. And I won Pulitzer Prize with it, and the World Press Photo second prize, also in breaking news. And then several other prizes like the Photo of the Year and all this as a first. So, and then it gave me a great stage that I talk about the ugly face of the war and ugly face of the violence. And then I try my best to talk about it. I tried also to talk about what's going on in Afghanistan and why the international community should be in Afghanistan and help us to achieve peace somehow. Well, unfortunately, everything is ruined now, and I lost my country and lost my homeland again.
I'm so sorry about that, Massoud. It's terribly difficult. I know it's difficult for people in the American and the British militaries and other militaries in the Allies who were in Afghanistan in that period and who did feel like they really went there to make a difference and do their level best. And I know there's a huge amount of, I mean, it's not, don't get me wrong, it's obviously felt most heavily by the Afghan people, but there are people who sympathize very greatly with you and your people as well. And
yeah, it just reminds me one of the Marines soldiers, 22 years, that I met in Garmsir, south of Helmand, that we were together. I was embedding with them, and then a bomb, a mine, explode, and he was driving the vehicle, and then he got really bad injuries in the feet, right? His feet was broken, the bones. But then the helicopters came, and I was in that helicopter too, the medevac helicopter, and we evacuated him to a bigger hospital. But because of the fear and the explosion and the shock, his heart was stopped in front of me in the helicopter, and he died, right? But before that, when I was talking to that team or that platoon, well, they thought that they are in Afghanistan for bringing a big change in the region, even, bringing democracy, bringing justice. They didn't know how Afghan society is, and a 22 years old Marine, for sure, that doesn't have many experience about the politics or whatever. And now I think that they're all, lost their life and blood, and they made a big disaster for their family by losing their own life, but for nothing. Yeah, Taliban are back, and then a lot of other terroristic group right now, they are getting base in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda is getting back. IS is getting back. Haqqani network, who killed a lot of people and terrorized a lot of foreigners, are back. Haqqani got the interior ministry. And the main people in the dark or terrorist list of the US and the UN is on the government of Taliban right now, and got all the weapons that Western countries donated to Afghanistan. And I can say that clearly, that they are the most powerful and the most wild terroristic group in the world now.
Yeah, it's really quite. It's really incredible. It's mind-boggling to so many people that situation occurred as it did. And okay, granted, people may say that they didn't expect it to happen like that, but for it to happen as it did, and for all of that material and all of those armaments to fall into the hands of terrorists as easily as they did, is really incredible. It's really quite something. I'd just like to go back, Massoud, if I may, just to the kind of your expectations of the trajectory in Afghanistan, because from a video of yours that I watched, you said that you expected peace in 2010 or 2011, but it didn't happen, and you were critical of America and the Allies for not trying to change the culture in Afghanistan, for only buying things like the armaments, but not trying to change the culture, and not trying to, or not doing well enough at introducing the idea of peace into Afghanistan. So, so what to your mind should they have done differently, and how could they have been more effective in changing the culture and introducing the idea of peace?
Yeah, well, yeah, there was some really big mistake that happened by NATO and the US and Western countries, that they didn't listen to us, right? To us means that my generation, that we were educated, we know the history, we knew the culture, we knew the politics, right? And we knew the surrounding Afghanistan's politics as well. They were fooled by one person, Mr. Khalilzad, who was Pashtun and the same tribe as Taliban, with their own politics, and a politician from Pakistan, right? Just imagine that everybody knows, it is clear like a day, that Pakistan is supporting terrorism and Taliban and invade Afghanistan, but President Obama was donating $1 billion to Pakistani army, right? So that was the mistake that they were doing it, right? I and my friends, we tried many times, we communicate many times with the NATO and the US officials that please listen to us. We can change the culture from the war to the peace, but we need your support. We made a campaign called Let's Talk. First, the NATO and the US embassy accept to support us, but later, because President Karzai was against it, they didn't do it, right? My main criticizing is that why the US and the NATO didn't want to find listen to us, that we were trying to make the new narrative and the reality to Afghanistan, right? Whatever came about the ethnic politics and all this was coming from one ethnic group to the world, right? If you see all the documents in Britain, in the London library, is about one tribe, right? But the majority of the population is included of the 3 other tribes, right?
Yeah.
But Pashtuns dominated the power by the help of the British, like 100 years ago, whatever. And after that also they kept dominating the power, right? At the same time, the other ethnicities, like the 3 others, Hazaras, Uzbeks, and Tajiks, were culturally were much peaceful compared to the Pashtun tribes, right? And again, because in these 20 years, because the power was dominated by Pashtun leaders and Pashtun politicians, and the US also had a special envoy from the Pashtun tribe, so they couldn't understand it. It is also difficult for Westerners to understand the ethnic politics of Afghanistan.
Sure.
So in these 20 years, we tried a lot to make and create the new narratives, right? And that's why that the Pashtun as a dominant group of power tried to destroy everything to keep the power, and they did. And now there is nothing that we can do. even they do not use Persian language in any official, letters or anything right now. But Persian language is the 90% of the country. That is the mutual language for all other ethnicities, right? Like Uzbek, with the Uzbeki language, can talk and communicate with a Pashtun guy through Persian. Tajik is a Persian. Hazara language is Persian, right? And a lot of Pashtun people also, talk Persian, right? Yeah. But right now, Taliban completely destroyed and canceled everything about this. So Taliban do not share the power to anyone. You cannot find any of these ministers that they have right now who are from another ethnicity, right? So for sure that the war won't stop. The civil war will happen soon.
Wow. So you talk about alternative narratives, Massoud. What were the alternative narratives? What were the new narratives that should have been put forward for peace building? What was the vision that should have been put forward and supported by the US and its allies?
Yeah, well, they just should let the other ethnicities to speak up, and for sure that the other ethnicities needed more peace because of the history, right? Who need the peace? The other three ethnicities, because they were always on the cruelty of the Pashtun domination system, right? And they, when I say we, means the non-Pashtuns, we try that. We try to make understand the Westerners that why we need to be in the power, why you need to work with us and support us, and why that the counting the population. What is the word for that? When you count the population.
Is it a census?
Yeah.
Yeah, census.
It should be in the right way, right?
Yeah.
You know that one of the biggest problem that we had about the electronic ID was writing the name of the Afghan in everybody's ID. We were not happy with that. We were not agree with that. Why? Because Afghan comes from the Pashtun name, tribe name, right?
Okay.
Their name is Afghan, right? And then they make that Afghan name as a nationality for everyone. So then the Western and other countries all will think that, okay, then Afghan and Pashtun are the majority, which was not. It's not true. So we want that that our own nationality also should be written in the ID, and that's why that the electronic ID was postponed for more than 10 years. Why? Because the Pashtun president never wanted that happen. Even the parliament in Afghanistan passed the law that it should be started. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So this was the things, the issues that we want that the allies, the international allies, know it and understand it and find out about it, but they didn't. The only kind of official country, let's say officials from a country that listened to me, it's interesting, was Dutch.
Right.
When last time in 2018 I came here, I made a presentation inside foreign ministry. Then I told them, this is the reality. Just listen to me. And then they officially record whatever I said about the other ethnicities, their culture, their population, and all this. And that was the first time.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? That local people aren't listened to, and I think this is a problem pretty much globally, isn't it? Really, this idea of elitism, if you want to call it, where the people in power talk to the other people in power, and not so much the like you say, the majority of the population to figure out really what is actually going on and what is really important. You spoke also, Massoud, in the previous video that I checked out about some problems in Afghan culture beyond bullets and bombs. So you mentioned things like dogfighting and cockfighting and things like that. How can changing those cultural practices or habits within the country, how can that help to bring about peace?
Well, education was really important to change the culture, right? Because people could think about whatever was going on. I saw many young people that their fathers were part of the gambling in the dog fightings, the bird fighting, and all this, that they didn't like that because they were educated, right? And a lot of fightings were going on in our culture, unfortunately. And that's why that this country all the time is fighting. It's a kind of a competition all the time, right? But the only way for that was education. And that is one of the reasons that also myself joined AUAF, American University, and I start the second major for myself as a political science student to learn with the Afghan people, because I grew up in Iran. So I wanted to be in an academic environment with Afghanistan new generation also. And we were, studying really, really well about a lot of updated and international subjects about the world history and politics. And then Taliban attacked on our university and made a big drama for us, right? And that shows that Taliban knew that education will be the only solution for that country, that we were trying to bring a really great system, right? We were trying to bring justice, equality, and everything, but before that we should know about it, we should learn about it, and education was the only key for it. But unfortunately, if you see in these 20 years, it was really, really less interest of the world to work on that, right? American University was exceptional. We tried, myself, I campaigned a lot for it. We really tried that happen. And well, when it happened, and then you could see that the graduates from AUAF were everywhere in a really great positions and jobs and businesses, right? But what's going on right now?
Is that in Afghanistan then?
Yes, Afghanistan, American University of Afghanistan, AUAF.
Yeah, and those graduates are then going on to kind of make the place better by starting businesses, by getting positions in existing businesses, and
exactly, many organization, media, like a lot of great businesses were doing by the graduates, students from AUAF, right? But just imagine right now I'm talking to you, AUAF become a Taliban a military base, right? Their soldiers, their fighters are using the dorm that my classmates and my people, actually my friends, were making a lot of great memories and great history for Afghanistan, right? The classes that we were studying right now is a base for the Taliban, soldiers. I don't know what they're doing there, right? What happened to our computers and all those great equipments that we made it for a UAF, right?
Yeah.
This shows that they were against the education, and they are against education, and they will destroy the education system at all. I mean, in all of it, right? And we are witnessing right now that they ban girls. It is 47, I think, days that the girls cannot go to school and high school right now, and it's really sad and it's really bad.
Yeah. So let's just take this back kind of to first principles, if we can call it that. What is it besides power, besides domination over the territory or the country or the region? What is it that the Taliban actually want?
Well, as I told you, first comes like a power, as they think that Afghanistan is their country, and one of their the Pashtun intellectuals and educated already wrote this, that the other ethnicities should get out of Afghanistan and immigrate to their own countries, which we don't know what does it mean. So this is the first thing, that the Pashtun tribe, doesn't matter the technocrats or terrorists, they don't dominated the power for themselves. Why? Because the area that the Pashtun are living has a really less resources for the life. So many resources, agriculture and everything, is in the north and the center. So for them, having and ruling the country means having the resource for their own people, right? But this is not going to work, because other ethnicities will fight for their own rights too, right? Sure. And well, beside this, for sure, it comes to the idea of the Islamic terrorist group, right? So making, excuse me to just rephrase it like this again. In the history of Afghanistan, Pashtuns who had the power, the kings, they believed that Afghanistan never become a colonized.
Right.
And it was the first country in the world, Islamic country in the world, that had the constitution as an Islamic constitution in 1924, right?
Okay.
And then this, kind of a group like Taliban, who follow Abdul Rahman Khan politics, the first king who tried to make Afghanistan as a country. Well, he called himself Amir and ruled the country with so much violence.
Yeah.
He massacred Hazaras, he massacred Tajiks, he massacred a lot of Uzbeks, took their lands, and then tried to inject Pashtuns on that areas. Exactly the way, the strategy that Taliban are doing it right now.
Interesting. You suggested a solution. I saw on one of your social media posts, you wrote, so a few months ago this now, I think, but you wrote, if peace approaches in my motherland, I will train some of the young Taliban soldiers who didn't kill anyone yet how to record beauty of life and nature of this land. I will train them how to look and know beauty, how to live in love. Photography, art brings peace.
Yeah. Well, I wrote that when the peace process was going on, right? I was a bit probably positive about it. I didn't know that which big trick is behind that. I didn't know that how Khalilzad and Ashraf Ghani is betraying us and betraying the West, right? So I wrote that if the peace happen, I'll do that. I'll do it voluntarily. I'll go to the villages and the places that the young Taliban soldier are they? And I teach them photography like without any charges or anything, just to let them know that you can go to other beautiful part of Afghanistan with the camera, not to go to invaded by the gun.
Yeah.
A lot of those soldiers in these 20 years, they didn't see the beauty of Afghanistan. They didn't see Badakhshan. They didn't see Bamiyan. They didn't see Samangan or Herat, right? And when I make the exhibition, a photo exhibition in Khost, in one of the cities in the south, like long time ago, like 10 years ago, something. So there were some of the Pashtun young generation and students that they were so happy to see like the Band Amir Lake. They never thought that Afghanistan is that much beautiful, right? But our Let's Talk campaign was about it, right? We wanted to do it, but Karzai didn't let us to do it, right? So it means that the Pashtun leaders, even these technocrats, came and supported by the West, especially Ghani, that the Europe, EU, and US support the fraud for him, right, in the election. They didn't want that the Pashtun young generation come and talk and like communicate with other ethnicities because they didn't want to lose the power, right? They wanted to get the power by weapon, by war, and they did, as the whole history. And here, the US and other countries never thought about it and never wanted to bring any solution for it. They brought the democracy, but by supporting fraud in elections, they destroyed democracy.
Interesting. So they built democracy on false foundations, and inevitably, as you would expect, it crumbled and fell. I've got to ask, Massoud, you mentioned about young Afghans not realizing how beautiful their country is. Have you seen that? Have you seen that frequently, where people have had their eyes opened about the beauty in Afghanistan, and it's changed them, it's transformed them? Have you seen that happen?
Yes, for sure. I did see a lot of, people that when they saw the pictures, then they realized that, oh my God, like, let's say, for example, Band Amir is so beautiful, let's go there, right? Or Herat or Badakhshan is so beautiful. Right now, even in the social media and Twitter, there are some campaign about it. It still is going on, that showing that how beautiful Afghanistan is, then please do not destroy it, right? So, I start and I did a lot for that. I gave a lot of pictures. Even right now, I try to give my good pictures to many campaigns, just talk about Afghanistan beauties, right? This is something that I can do still through my, pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said before, I find it interesting, that contrast that you raised at the start of the conversation, where you weren't getting much traction by sending people stories in text about what was happening. But then when you started sending them pictures, all of a sudden it opened up avenues. It caught people's hearts and minds. It caught people's attention in terms of what's happening, what the situation is, for good and for ill as well. I'd like to go back to talking a little bit more about you now, if that's okay, Massoud, and your experience. There's something that really struck me that I came across you saying on a video. You said, "When I'm sleeping, I see war. I see dead bodies. I always suffer."
Yeah. Well, that was that quote is from long time ago, probably a few years back. After the attack on the AUAF, the university, and the drama that I had there. So the PTSD, which I was dealing with, got really powerful in my life, right? And then it brought me a lot of nightmares, a lot of difficulties. It destroyed my life. It destroyed even my marriage, right? And well, I couldn't control anything because it wasn't on my hand. Something happened through all the shocks that I had, and it stayed in my brain, and then I couldn't control it. Something else was controlling me, and then I realized that myself, I'm a victim too, right? Besides being wounded in many explosions or many other things, this effect of the war in my life will stay in my life forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you deal with that? How do you cope with that and try to work through it?
Oh well, for sure it was so difficult, and then I came to I was looking for a kind of like treatment or assist. Then there was a suggestion of a small organization in Holland, Defenders in Dordrecht, that they offered me a fellowship and trying to help the defenders who had this kind of situation, and then by giving them rest and opportunity to live in Holland and kind of have a peaceful life for sometimes. So I came to Holland, and then I decided to get rid of these nightmares and everything. And then I realized that I can find a professional that to help me and assist me to kind of find a way. And then it was an Iranian friend of mine, a really famous journalist for a Dutch TV. He introduced me to another Iranian specialist. So she helped me with like many different methods and ways. One of them was EDMR, that I tried to take all that memories and those shocks which stuck in some part of the brain to go and being archived, let's say. This is the way that I explain it. You know, it's so much difficult and complicated, but this is the way that I can explain. So I used that method, and in the end of that, I saw a really, really different and effective and a big effect on myself, which it totally changed everything for me. I could see the colors, the beauty exactly like before. And then the feelings, the way that I was thinking, my logic and everything get back, right? But then I realized that I lost a lot of things anyway in my life. But anyway, I just got back. And I went back to Afghanistan and tried to work again. As a freelancer, because AP fired me when I asked them for help and tried to ask them for assist for the PTSD and all thing. Instead, they fired me because they didn't want to spend money, probably.
Is that anyway, AP? Sorry, just for clarity for people listening, AP is the Associated Press. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, right, the organization that I was working with. So then I get back to Kabul and start and get back to the news and the war, and then start kind of covering war again. And I find out, like let's say 5-6 months ago, that the government is completely collapsed inside. So me and my colleague from foreign policy, we went to the war zones like 3-4 months ago, several war zones, and we were covering and then find the stories and writing and taking picture of it. And then we understood and realized that the government is completely destroyed.
Mm.
The order was completely gone. The centralization that the Ghani did, nobody could decide, only himself, like a total dictator, right?
Yeah.
And he never kind of ordered to defeat Taliban, right? And he gave all the power and everything back to the Taliban. And well, I understood that, and then I applied for a emergency visa in the Holland. They gave me, because I, at the same time, I applied for the green card. I was waiting for it, but I didn't know when.
Sure.
So that's why that I used the Dutch visa as a plan B, which this plan B saved my life. And I came to Holland in the 15th of August, the same day which Kabul also was fallen on the hand of Taliban.
Wow, that's really some coincidence, and it must have been extremely dramatic for you to have seen that as you flee the country and Kabul falls.
Yes,
Massoud,
I actually when because I knew that would happen, and then I will lose my country forever, at least in my own life.
Yeah.
So when the plane was taking off, well, I cried really loud.
Sure.
In the plane, it was so difficult for me.
I can't even imagine. I'm not even gonna pretend to imagine. I'm so sorry that it's transpired like that. I have to ask now, because I like to think about moving forward as well. And for you, you are out of Afghanistan. You did make it out of Afghanistan. You're in Holland at the moment. So what is your vision for the future now?
In my own life or for Afghanistan?
Yeah, for your own life first, then we'll talk about Afghanistan.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You know, I lost my country and I lost myself, right? All of my plans are destroyed. And all of the decision I made for my own country, it's not useful anymore. So I don't have anything, you know, I don't have identity. I don't have like home. I don't have even I don't have the bank account, which I have a lot of problem right now with it. And I don't have job. I don't have subject, you know. So I lost everything, and I'm trying to find a way back to get back to the life. First of all, I have to find a place to settle, right? I have to find a country that I get in and have the right to live and to work, right? And then try and plan for other things. You know, the first, in the 15th of August, when I arrived to Amsterdam, I tweet this, that me, Massoud Hossaini, I'm looking for a country because I lost the country. I lost my home, right? And well, right now I'm waiting for the immigration visa from the US. At the same time, I try to apply for the British visa if I can go to Britain and live there. So these are the two options that I have right now, because my language, my second language is English, right?
Yeah.
Europe, Holland, they are great places to live for sure. But I know myself that I need to be completely deep on the society, deep on the stories of the people, the local people. And I think that I need to be in a country which the language is English.
Interesting. Going back to your thoughts on Afghanistan then, Massoud, what's the way back from this? How can the country be recovered from the Taliban? Because this seems like such a difficult problem to solve. It's a very tough nut to crack. So what do you think could be the solution to that?
Well, the solution is really difficult to be implemented for Afghanistan. A powerful terroristic group is ruling the country now. They are being supported by Pakistan, which the West and NATO thought that Pakistan is a really good ally for them. So I can't see anything for the short time. Well, the civil war definitely will have started, right? Genocide is going on right now against Shias and Hazaras. And the country will fall completely or totally will be fallen. It will be, separated, a lot of, probably 4 to 5 new countries will burn, and then the war would be really much, Well, the solution is kind of idealistic a bit. I can't see it as a reality. If the Westerns and the US and the NATO put pressure on Pakistan and then put pressure a lot on the Taliban, and they also support the resistance group to bring a balance. If Taliban accept, I don't know, democracy or anything. If not, then they have to be defeated, right? And then if we want to save this country, we have to, get it back from Pakistan. This is, invasion from Pakistan. So we have to get it back. And if we get it back from Taliban and Pakistan, then we have to go back and bring everybody, all the ethnicities back and make another democracy, right? Another republic. Otherwise, it will be the safe haven for the terrorists, which is going on right now. Or exactly like the Yugoslavia solution, the world should help us to federate the country, right? To take it out, to separate it.
Yeah.
The Tajiks cannot accept that only Pashtun rules them and take their resources. Hazaras cannot accept to be subject for genocide all the time because they're different with the Pashtuns, right? Exactly like the Uzbeks. So the only, more realistic solution, I think, for Afghanistan is separation and federative, let's say.
Yeah, there's so many different moving parts going on there, so many different groups and interests, and like you say, it's the competition for power and for control of resources within that particular area. Is there anything, Massoud, that you've touched on what governments might be able to do to help Afghanistan and the Afghan people overcome the Taliban? Is there anything that individuals can do to help the Afghan people in the current context?
Well, Afghanistan is the main subject for human rights, for the equality in the world and justice and everything. So, the individual people should, again, if some people really want to do anything, is to go back, see the history, right, of Afghanistan, listen and talk to us, the non-Pashtun, educated people, to find out for themselves that what is going on in Afghanistan, right? Unfortunately, some of the international media, they do not reflect the reality because their journalists always study the old narrative about Afghanistan, right? Many of them do not know about inside Afghanistan, which we were there, right? And we know it, right? So, for example, when the U.S. Government decided to leave Afghanistan, many big international news agencies and media try to convince their readers that that's a good decision. Right? And even right now, they are sitting in Kabul, right? And they're being fooled by, Taliban. Taliban do not touch them, right? Let them to work only in Kabul, right? And these journalists and these organizations do not understand the realities going on in Afghanistan because they're only in Kabul. They are being censored by Taliban. And at the same time, they are helping Taliban to make international community fool and trick them for recognition, right? This will be the horrible, horrible, horrible time for the world if the international community recognize this terroristic group. Then it means that they recognized terror, they recognized terrorism, they recognized murder, they recognized criminality, right? Well, it's a really hard time.
Yeah, for sure. To speak to the beauty of Afghanistan, Massoud, as you've already touched on, where can people go to see the sorts of photos that you've taken and that others have taken to really capture the beauty of Afghanistan? Where can we go to find that?
Well, my pictures and a lot of pictures are in the websites like AFP website, AP, Getty Images, and all this. And at the same time, I try to find an organization to assist me and help me to make exhibition, right? Like Do
you have a book?
No, not yet, because I was working for AP and AFP. Okay. So I didn't have that because of all limitation that like AP news agency make for their own photographers, right? So still I don't have the book. My website is being destroyed because I was just managing it, and then Afghanistan was fallen, right? So I have to work on that as well. And then I tried a lot to make an exhibition from 20 years, all life, beauty, problem, girls, women, whatever. In London, I couldn't find the source, and I couldn't find the support for it, for example. I really tried, I really tried much. And then Afghanistan was fallen. And it became the biggest news, again, like before, killing, explosion, terrorism, dying, beheading, and all this, right? And that argument that I always try to make it to own my pictures doesn't have anybody right now, doesn't have any client, let's say.
Well, I think there are a lot of people who would be very interested to see that other side of Afghanistan that you've talked about, Massoud, and I think it's very noble work to continue with in showing the other side to all of this, because I, as a Westerner, I haven't been to Afghanistan myself, so I'm reliant on, again, like you say, the Western media, because that's I read newspapers in the UK, and so they're decent papers. I do for the most part, I trust them. I don't think that they're sensationalist, but nevertheless, I'm not there, and so I'm always getting it through somebody else's filter with, and there's always an agenda. It doesn't matter what newspaper you read, there's always an agenda. So far be it from me to tell you how to spend your time, but I think there's really valuable work to be done there in showing the beauty of the place, because for so long, like you say, all we've heard about is war in Afghanistan, but it just can't be true that that's all there is to the place. It just simply can't be true, and you know that more than anybody. So I would love to see it if you were able to put something together, whether it's an exhibition or a book, and really show the world the beauty of your homeland and reclaim
Sure.
that, because that is in your heart forever. That's who you are, regardless of the political power and the setup now. You are an Afghan, and you have a unique opportunity, I think, to represent your country in the wider world, way outside of the purview of the Taliban. And if that is what you choose to do, then I wish you absolutely all the very best with it.
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for your time to talk today, Massoud. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.